Hello everyone, for today's video I'll be taking you all through the depths of the realm of death to the Lord of Bones and all things spooky, so grab some sweets, a big mug of cocoa for the Lord himself, Nagash! I'll be taking you all through his rise and his multiple falls. It honestly feels like watching someone falling down a flight of stairs. But moving on, we start with his appearance, and that being a luscious, tall, skeletal figure, wrapped in the blackened armour, and his dreamy sockets where his eyes should be, and his deathly aura with wailing souls screaming around him. Moving on to his personality. He is the very patient, though he has a breaking point like any immortal skeleton. He's a massive strategist. He is the worst person to play with a board game as he is immortal, so he likes to play the long game far better than other gods. But he won't tolerate another god passing by him when another god takes the souls of the dead. But that for later, for you all to find out. We move on to the history lesson of this video. We're going to be starting with the Age of Myth, and with Nagash imposing order on the spirits of the dead, while his dead walkers help build defensive structures for the cities of order. As during the age, Nagash would claim Shyish and all of the underworld as his domain. This was a self-proclaim of rulership, and for his very large ego that all spirits of mortal creatures who died should belong to him. However, he knew the other gods wouldn't sit by with the spirits of their factions all going to Nagash, as the elven gods and the demigods protecting the souls of elves from both Slaanesh and Nagash, and the God King stealing the souls to create Stormcast. So Nagash came up with a plan, using his sorceress powers to find the largest deposit of Realmstone in Shyish, and then giving Arkan the task of sifting through the sand to collect the Realmstone. He gave Arkan untold legions of skeletons to help with this, and brought it to the centre of the realm to construct a black pyramid of monstrosity size. The pyramid and the cyclones were designed by Nagash to attract arcane powers so that he could eventually be able to claim all of Shyish for himself and use it to conquer all life. Swiftly moving on to the Age of Chaos, the Shyish Archway is taken by Chaos as it appears that Nagash switches sides to aid the forces of entropy. In retaliation, Sigmar invades the realm of Shyish and begins the war of heaven and the underworld. As Nagash finds out that Sigmar was withholding souls from him, and when Chaos started their attack on Shyish, he brought back all of the dead that were building and helping in the mortal realm with settlements back to Shyish to help defend it. When Arkan sent armies to attack Nagash, Nagash waited for his ally Sigmar to help bring relief, but when none arrived, Nagash had to push them back himself. This brought a sour taste to the skeleton, so when Sigmar sent armies to defend the All Points in the name of the Pantheon against Chaos, he asked Nagash to help, and the skeleton answered, though he did not commit his full strength to it, with each other seeing the other committing unforgivable betrayals and declaring their alliance broken. With the need to have his revenge and to settle his rage, Sigmar threw away his title of God King aspect and returned to the barbarian god of war, and leading his armies into the realm of death, carved his way through the realm and slaying many of Nagash's lieutenants and heralds before leaving. As a result, Nagash had to go into hiding and leave the realm of Shyish, left to be overrun by chaos. We move far into the age, to the near end of it, where we have the Battle of Black Skies, where Archeon the Ever-Chosen storms Nagash's capital. Though being put into the corner, Nagash was far from being weak. Before joining the fight, he worked on rituals and necromantic summonings to bring forth undead armies. He then came out onto the battlefield and the sky turned black as midnight, with only the flickering of gassed fire for light. Nagash sent scythes of death magic as they cut through hordes of chaos as they aged to dust, though demonic legions were not affected by them, and the Ever-Chosen's elites had wards to protect them. By the time Archeon's summoners gathered to counter the spell, entire clans of Skaven were reduced to dust, pushing back 4 assaults, each led by the greater demon of different gods, though the 5th assault finally made Nagash make a move back, and Archeon, sensing this weakness, focused all his strength to this assault. Seeing this, Nagash raised further armies and summoned his reserves from the depths of the fortress crypts, with Mortriox at the heads, while summoning himself with Mortress engines carrying empowering artifacts and protecting himself with flocks of Morgeists. The legions of the Ever-Chosen still came for him, while cleaving through the undead armies faster than the great necromancer could summon them, though the enemies who reached Nagash would fall to the gaze of Nagash. But despite destroying the first foes to reach him, he realized he could not hold out forever and began planning his escape. As he planned his escape, a Lord of Change confronted him, though Nagash slew him easily. This delay gave Archion enough time to reach the skeleton with the help of his steed Dorgun, destroying the Morgheist, protecting their master. As this happened, the great necromancer was struck in a duel with Archion. Their fight was so fierce that the black sky started to tear apart, though no matter how much magical power Nagash drew to himself, he was being pushed back, all until Archion's cursed sword cleaved through Nagash's crown, and Nagash's body collapsed to the ground, with Archion giving command to his forces to deal with the remains of the undead armies. As this happened, though, time would stop, and the Matriarchs, knowing that if Chaos forces capture Nagash's remains, it would be certain he would be annihilated. So, through the gaps between heartbeats, the Matriarchs gathered Nagash's remains and artifacts and escaped beyond the starless gates to recover. The consequences of Nagash being out of the driving seat of the car called the undead armies of Shyish. The armies started to fragment as each vampire lord and white kings looked to preserve their own territory. The undead who remained ran away after the battle. The Chaos forces constructed the Cage of Bones. This cage was made with remains of Nagash's armies bound by Chaos Forge fetters. The cage writhed uselessly as the corpses tried to obey the great necromancer's commands. Nagash's great capital was sacked by Archion's armies, and the ruins garrisoned by Archion's hand-picked lieutenants, and the many sites of power were corrupted or destroyed. As these armies continued to march over Shyish, even the Matriarchs were forced to go into hiding. Now, as this happened, we must go to the tombs under the Lake Leophis, where the Bone Lord is recuperating. His construction of the Great Black Pyramid was continued apace. He watched over his minions for signs of dissent or weakness. He also confirmed a long-standing suspicion of his that Sigma was stealing souls for some mysterious scheme. This was a blatant breach of their alliance, which to Nagash's mind required all souls to go to Shyish. Nagash would not forgive the God King easily, if at all. Now, we come to the Age of Sigma, where Nagash's ultimate plan is coming to fruition. The very nature of the realm of Shyish started to change, where normally you would find death magic at the edges, but now the magic was now in the center of the realm. The gods of order and chaos realized what was happening, and they were almost too late to stop it, as they sent armies and armies to Nagash's capital to stop him, though all armies were slain. However, the ritual started to make Nagash supreme. When the ritual started to make Nagash a supreme being, an unexpected event happened, and this being Clan Slynik, led by Critic Tail. These Skavens infiltrated the Great Black Pyramid to steal Ramstone. Their presence of chaos touched corrupted the spell. This led to the pyramid inverting and starting to revolve, drilling towards the center of the realm. This created a vortex of pure amethyst magic called Nadir of Shyish, and although it was not exactly like he planned, he entered the storm and fed on its magic until he could hold it no longer. The deluge of death magic that followed would come to known as Necroquake, and its aftershocks changed the very nature of magic in the mortal realms. Nagash has numbers of aspects, with all are one in Nagash and Nagash is all. These aspects all have varied and with their own personalities and domains. As Nagash grows stronger, so do these aspects. There isn't much information on these aspects, so this will be a lightning round. Starting this off, we have Archon Nagash. This aspect of Nagash is the Lord of the Drowned and the Great God of the Depths. Next is Bao Nagash, or the Black Child, and this one is a kind and nurturing aspect of Nagash who soothes the dying in their last moments. Next down the list is the Black Priest. This aspect of Nagash gives assistance to those whose deaths are too painful to be borne. Next is Nagash Moor, or the Reaper King, and this is a calm and silent aspect who weighs the heart of the dead souls against a feather. He is also the defender of the dead and the living both, taking to the field of battle to defend the people in the forgotten corners of Shyish. Now, we are on the home stretch with the last two aspects. We have the Fallen Child. This aspect brings peace feast to those who died before their allotted time. Now the last one, this one is called the Undying King. This aspect of Nagash, who is the most warlike, it is said he leads 999 legions to war. He walks in every man's shadow and weighs in every man's blood. This is one of the aspects most associated with raising the dead, especially those of enemies, as undead hordes to turn against their former allies. It is this aspect that seeks to scorn the Shyish clean of false life. These aspects of Nagash show him in different lights, as we see him as a helper to those whose deaths are too painful, or being there for those at their last moment. He is also a defender to people in the forgotten corners of the realm, but he is also a warlord of sorts, with armies to attack invaders and enemies to the realm. I think Nagash, as the great necromancer, is one of those people who try to play 4D chess, as he knows he can outlive others. When we look further into his character, he is a more complex character, though he is still a great villain. We now get to the last section of this video, this being the legions of Nagash, who are numerous undead armies that serve the great Bone Lord. Now before we start, I'll explain what a Mortriarch is, as for anyone who has been watching this video has heard me say it multiple times. They are Death Lords, immersively powerful chosen Nagash, some of which were a powerful force in the world that was, and who now serve him again in the mortal realms. Each of the Mortriarchs have powerful relics and artifacts at their disposal and may ride to war on a dread abyssal mounts. These are from the skeletons of the Osiric legions to the ghosts of the Legion of Grief. Now we shall start with the Legion of the Night, which is led by Manfred von Karstein. This Mortriarch of the Night specializes in terror tactics, relishing in the use of Varngeist to smash and tear into the enemy's formations. Now, a Varngeist is what happens to vampires who have been denied blood for too long. This could be for various reasons. They risk having their bestial urges overtake them, and if they succumb to these urges, devolve into frenzied Varngeist, which is blinded by bloodlust and their minds and bodies twisted into the horrors of the night. Moving on though, the armies to the Legion of Sacrament, who is led by Arkan the Black, who is the Mortriarch of the Sacrament. Except from Nagash, who has mastered death magic and necromancy, Arkan has learnt to an extent of all this magic, and it follows that most of his legion is made up of countless death mages, necromancers, who wish to learn from Arkan. Next is the Legion of Blood, led by Nefriata, who is the Mortriarch of Blood. She is based in the capital city of Nohamin. We now have two legions left, and these are the Legions of Grief and the Osiric Legion. The Legion of Grief, who is led by Lady Olodin, the Mortriarch of Grief. She was a Kratia Nagash after watching the psychological effects the Night Haunts inflict upon mortal minds. She leads the armies of the Night Haunts into war against the armies who dare take their weapons against the great necromancer. Now, the last legion, the Osiric Legion, who is ruled by Orpheon Kratos, the Mortriarch of Necrophilius, and they represent the iron fist of Nagash's will. This is an elite army of numerous legions of Osiric Bone Reapers. So everyone, that was the good bit of the lore on this bony necromancer with an ego so big it could swallow the realm. If you have any questions, leave a comment and I will try my best to answer them. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and if you see the bell, press it so you can hear me talk more about this franchise's lore.